Hello and welcome to the long and winding Royal Road, episode 32, second episode of 2023. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, and why wouldn't you be? Because then you get to see myself and who my guest of the month is, and you'll know that my guest today, this month, is a first timer. He's been clamoring to be on the show. He's been saying, when am I going to be on the show? And I said, yeah, we'll see. And then, I thought we should get this person on. And so here he is today. He's the host of a little podcast called Shot in the Dark. I'm wearing the t-shirt.
Look at that with the shirt ready.
And he's part of the post wrestling family, the BDE collective. He's part of this little street gang over there called the BSK as well. Don't ask about that.
Look at the logo.
Listen, when am I getting my hat? I can't wear those though. Snapbacks aren't my thing.
We'll get you a Poisonrana dad hat. Don't worry.
Yeah, I need one of those folded brim hats. By the way, it's not a dad hat. Other young people wear those as well. Anyways, I'm gonna get one of those. Plus a sweatshirt that's gonna be worn by Scrump himself before he sends it out. He said I asked him about that when I was doing a podcast with him. He's like, "You gonna wear yours before you send it to me? Mine before you send it to me?" He's like, "If you want." I go, "Well, we'll see. I'll let you know." Anyways, it's John Siino, everyone. Hi, John.
How are you? I'm so happy to be here finally. We're not talking Ant-Man. We're not talking movies. We're talking wrestling, which I think is a first for us, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I'm the second person to have on here that's lived in the city of Yonkers, unless unless L&WRR lived in Yonkers at one point. I'm not sure.
Who would be the other one? Would it be one Eddie Kingston?
Yes.
Talk about?
Yes, Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston, if you're watching this, I'm the guy that always yells, "Do it for Getty Square" whenever I see you wrestle, and only he would know what that means. So.
Okay. Well, if it's an inside joke, we won't ask you to explain.
No, it's just it's a popular neighborhood in Yonkers, so I'm sure he always catches attention.
My little joke with John, by the way, is I always like to say he's from the Red Hook section of Brooklyn here.
Which I'm not even if anything, I'm near more the Bronx. I'm more Westchester, Paul Heyman, Tommy Dreamer, obviously Eddie Kingston country, New Rochelle, cities like that. I'm nowhere near Brooklyn. It's more the Bronx area, but it's okay. Yeah, I'll let it slide for you.
It's okay. So John, what's your history? Do you have any history with being a fan of All Japan Pro Wrestling?
To be honest, no. When I was growing up, obviously I had WWF, I had WCW. Occasionally I check out some of the super shows from New Japan. I was kind of introduced with that through my cousin. But honestly, I'm learning. I hate to put you over, but I'm learning with you. Whenever you do one of these shows and you put up the link, and I'll check it out and I'll find out, about the Can-Am Express and the British Bulldogs and the Malenkos and all this, and it's great. So I'm learning as I'm listening to this. So it's all fairly new to me. Outside of the long and winding Royal Road, I really haven't watched too much All Japan.
All right. Well, you picked this match that we're going to talk about today. You must be, obviously you're familiar with both the participants. It's a singles match we're going to look at. And you mentioned actually, one of the guys already. His name is his gimmick name is Dan Kroffat. His full name is Philippe Lafon, aka Phil Lafon, who people might know. He was in the WWF short time with his tag team partner Doug Furnas, and collectively they were known as the Can-Am Express, not the Can-Am Connection. That would be Tom Zink and Rick Martel. This is the Can-Am Express. Oddly enough, there's actually a connection between Phil Lafon and Tom Zink. They used to be tag team partners in Montreal. We'll talk a bit about his history in Montreal and in Japan as well. But yeah, and he's going to be facing, in this match that we're going to talk about, he's going to be facing one Robbie V, a.k.a. Rob Van Dam. And why did you pick this match, John?
I honestly wanted to pick a match with somebody or people that you haven't covered before. And I was surprised you didn't cover any of the Can-Am Express. Originally I was going to go with the Can-Am Express versus the British Bulldogs, but then I know you just did British Bulldogs versus the Malenkos not too long ago. So I figured, okay, let me get two guys I'm familiar with. I watched them wrestle in ECW. I obviously watched them wrestle in WWF. And I don't really know much about Phil Lafon and Doug Furnas outside of WWF. They were kind of like you said, they were in and out of WWF, and that was it. Outside of ECW, I never really got a chance to watch them. And I've never seen Lafon or Danny here wrestle singles match. And this was actually his highest rated singles match from Meltzer, as well as RVD's highest singles match, even higher than the match he had with Jerry Lynn. So I was really curious on these two having a singles match and how it would work, and especially in All Japan.
So I thought today would be a nice opportunity to like talk about the history of Phil-a-thon, Danny Kroffat. We're gonna primarily refer to him as Kroffat because that's what he was known as in Japan. He's born September 16th, 1961. He was born in Ontario, here in the province that I live in, and then he was in. I was watching a shoot interview with him. There's actually a shoot interview out there with him on YouTube that people should go out and watch if you want to learn more about him. But he was discovered by Dynamite Kid and Dave Boy Smith in a Gold's Gym in Calgary, and they said, "Hey, you look like you could be a wrestler." So they invited him down to the dungeon, and he got stretched by Stu Hart, and then unlike some other people that they would invite, he decided, "Hey, I kind of think this is kind of cool. I'm going to come back." So he kept coming back, and they said, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna reveal the secrets of the world of pro wrestling to you." And then they let him in on the, "Hey, it's a work, it's a kayfabe, it's a shoot." These kinds of things, And then he got trained by one Mr. Hito, who was like a foreign heel of obviously in the 80s in Calgary. They had many of those in Calgary in the 80s. He's trained by Mr. Hito. So he's not really like, people don't talk about him as being a guy from the dungeon like you would say Chris Jericho.
I had no idea until you just told me, honestly. I knew he was from Canada, but outside of that, I had no idea he trained in the dungeon. Okay.
Yeah, he trained in the dungeon by Mr. Hito. He, like same guy who like was very instrumental in the training, doing a lot of training for Bret Hart as well. So, he comes from a good pedigree there. He would do like, territorial wrestling in Canada for the most part, like also do something in, I think he did some work in the Pacific Northwest, maybe in the Portland territory. But I first saw him as a fan. I first saw him as Dan Kroffat. I would say around 1986. Here in Toronto, we used to get the Montreal territory, international wrestling. We get the shows on a Saturday afternoon around 1 p.m. So I just finished watching Superstars of Wrestling, the WWF show, and then it would be Maple Leaf Wrestling. I'm trying to remember. It was like WWF Superstars of Wrestling, from which looks like it was always shot out of like Buffalo or something like that, or Rochester or something like that. And then like CHCH Channel 11 used to have Maple Leaf Wrestling, which was shot primarily, I think, in Hamilton. But then they did like the squash matches, but then they show like a feature match from a Maple Leaf Gardens show with the ramp. It was really cool. And then you also get International Wrestling, Montreal's International Wrestling, which at the time, according to Danny Kroffat, was like booked by Rick Martel, Dino Bravo, and I believe Gino Brito. So they bring him in. He's Phil-a-thon, but he said his French was terrible. So in a Quebec territory, you got to speak. If you have a French name, your French better be pretty good, like Rick Martel's was, or the Gino Bravo's was, or the Rougeau brothers was. But they said, okay, we're gonna have to give you a different name, because if your French isn't fluent, like super fluent, like native speaker fluent here, they're gonna turn on you. They said, okay, let's pick a name for you. And then he's like, I don't know, think of a name. So apparently Rick Martel said, you're gonna be now known as Dan Kroffat. Unbeknownst to him, Dan Kroffat was actually the name of a wrestler out in Calgary who already existed. But so there's a little confusion sometimes about, hey, which Dan Kroffat? It's like there's a wrestler named Biff Wellington. There's two. It's like, which one's which? There's one in Calgary. There's one somewhere else. I don't know. Anyways, it's a little funny detail you have with Dan Kroffat. And then he primarily teamed at first with a wrestler by the name of Alofa. Do you know who Alofa would famously become?
Alofa? No, yes. Who's that?
He's part of the Samoan dynasty.
And what year was this?
86.
86.
Young wrestler by the name of Alofa who would sire a family of wrestlers. He has 3 sons in wrestling right now.
Is it a Mr. Rikishi?
It is. It's the Sultan.
The Sultan. It's not Savio Vega, though, right?
That's not Savio Vega.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Ray Brandon from New Jersey. Savio Vega was fucking Quang, not the fucking Sultan. All right. Anyways, I already called him, by the way. I messaged him already and said, don't know who the Sultan was. Anyways, He's teaming with Alofa. They're feuding with the Long Riders for the International Tag Team Championships. He always stood out to me. I was like, this guy is like a solid in-ring technician. He's nice balance with Alofa, who's like more of a high flyer. You wouldn't. I swear to God, I think if I watched tape back of those guys teaming at that time, I would not recognize Rikishi as being Alofa, because he looked completely different, so much younger, and like I kind of wonder if I go back, does he look like his sons? Does he look like Jimmy or Jay?
Probably
or Solo?
sometimes like even Solo, like I see a lot of Solo in like young Rikishi for sure. Usos maybe not so much, but definitely Solo.
Yeah. He would make his way to All Japan Pro Wrestling in 1988, initially teaming with Danny Spivey. Apparently he was brought over as a quartet of wrestlers along with Doug Furnas, who he would later be paired with permanently by Giant Baba as the Catman Express, but also with Tom Zink, who he teamed with. Actually, he won the international wrestling tag team titles with Tom Zink in Montreal, and also as well as a young Dustin Rhodes. So there's an interesting. Imagine if Dustin Rhodes stayed in All Japan and never went to WCW. What would his career have been like?
We never would have gotten Goldust and Seven, and yeah.
Well, I think we could have lived without Seven, to be honest with you. But all right, so him and so this is where Dan Kroffat gets his big successes in the tag team with Doug Furnas, the Can-Am Express, and I'll say talking about Doug Furnas maybe at a different time if I ever do a singles match or another Can-Am Express match, which I'm sure I will. They were one of my favorite tag teams of all time, especially from this era. They would hold the All Asia tag team titles 5 different times from 1989 to 1994. So for 5 years, they would like win the titles, lose titles, and then win the titles, like pretty much once every year. So they were pretty much, married to those belts. They were like, if you think about those titles, they're one of the first names that comes up as being like a signature team that held those belts. So, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about them in the future. So there's a little bit of noise coming through, John.
Noise.
Sounds like a heater, air conditioner. I don't know what it is.
Sorry, yeah, winter time in New York, there's a lot of weird, strange noises. So
it's okay. It's okay. We don't want you to freeze. We don't want your roommate there to freeze either. Not talk about your cat either. Let's talk about Lorenzo.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah. So that's okay. So Furnas and Kroffat would also have success outside of Japan. They would hold the UWA World Tag Team titles in Mexico twice in 92 and 93, and also hold the ECW World Tag Team titles in 1997. And did you ever see them when they wrestled in ECW?
I did, yeah, after the fact. I think after the time in WWF, I went back, and I'm pretty sure I saw them against RVD and Sabu, if I'm not mistaken.
Who did they win the tag team titles from? I forget.
That's a good question. I don't. The Eliminators, was it around that time?
I think it would have been probably the Eliminators. That would have been.
That sounds about right.
Would have been interesting to see like this polished tag team take on like at the time like Perry Saturn and John Kronos were like. Perry Saturn's always been a good wrestler, but I think when he was in the Eliminators, he's just like a spot dude.
Yeah.
And Kronos just did a lot of spots and just wrecked people, which is fine in of itself. But I wonder, maybe I have to hunt down that match and see if it was any good. Anyways, they would have a year-long stint in the WWF where Kroffat would go under his real name of Phil LaFawn, which is interesting. I guess they just thought, no, we don't like this Danny Kroffat name. So what's your real name? Can you just imagine Vince McMahon saying, pal, what's your real name? Phil LaFawn? Oh, that's great. Let's go with that. This Dan Kroffat's bullshit. All right. Anyways, Kroffat would also have some single success in All Japan. He would hold the PWF World Junior Heavyweight Championship twice. Once he won it first on May 21st, 1993, ending Masanobu Fuchi's 1,309-day reign for losing it back to him on August 23rd. So he only had one defense, and he lost the belt right away back to Fuchi. But he would regain the title from Fuchi on July 12th, 1994, and hold it for 425 days, having 5 successful defenses against Yoshinari Gawa twice, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, Satoru Asako, before finally losing to Ogawa on September 10th, 1995. And of course, he would also defend this belt against Rob Van Dam in the match that we will talk about. I'll get a bit more detail about that match in a second. But if you want to know like other accolades that Dan Kroffat has, he is the recipient of the Wrestling Observer Match of the Year from 1992 for his classic All Asia Tag Team title match that he and Doug Furnas have against Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, and one Kenta Kobashi that occurred on May 25th, 1992 in Sendai. So I'm sure I've yet to recover, I've yet to review that match. I think this year I have an idea of reviewing it with a particular person. So probably get to that sometime this year, John. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about, Robbie V. Rob Van Dam. I don't think I really have to go too in depth about him. I think a lot of people know his history, but Rob Van Dam would toil in the indies and be, enhancement talent for the first couple of years of his career before getting his big breaks, I feel, in 1993 as Robbie V in WCW and in All Japan. He would get booked both places in 93 as the name he wanted to go by, which was Rob Van Dam. And he was a solid part of the undercard and junior division from 1994 until basically he leaves in 97 to work full time in ECW. And I don't know, any thoughts on Rob Van Dam before we get into the match?
No, I'm just curious. Like on commentary, I didn't notice them name drop one Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, do you know if like in storyline they like actually said he was related to Jean-Claude? Like, I'm not sure if that's something.
No, I'm pretty sure and I actually make notes about this this commentary. By the way, I'm gonna talk about the commentary. The play-by-play guy, I don't know his name. He is hilarious. He just makes so many awesome comments in this match, but I think they're more like, oh yeah, he named himself after Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think they also talk about the fact that he kind of looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they like, I think it's more of a kind of a point of humor for them to talk. There's no really storyline where I don't think anyone's gonna believe that he's actually Jean-Claude Van Damme's like younger brother or anything like that.
And even like up to like the last year or so, he was still like, I think wrestling in Noah or so. So he's still making occasional trips to Japan, I feel like, RVD.
Maybe that's kind of like, I think that was like a couple of dates, and then they just said probably he cost too much. I don't know.
Gotcha. So I'm wondering, like, is he like held in like high regards in Japanese wrestling, or was it more kind of like a brief stint and they just know him more for his WWF stuff?
The latter. I don't think he necessarily made that much of an impression. I don't think many people know, like, even in North America, like that, or other Western audiences know that he did like 3 years in All Japan as a junior. I think that's kind of a hidden part of his career, So I think really people don't know anything about Rob Van Dam's career before 97, to be honest with you. It's people like, I don't think they know they're that familiar with the stuff he did as Robbie V in WCW, and he was just enhancement talent back then anyway, so it wouldn't really matter. But we're going to talk about this match, Dan Kroffat versus Rob Van Dam, from June 9th, 1995, from Budokan Hall, where RVD will challenge Dan Kroffat for his World Junior Championship. And let's talk a bit about the card before the rest of the card before we get to this match, John. So to open, we have a tag team match with Masao Inoue and Mighty Inoue, no relation. And they defeat Manokea Mossman and Mitsuo Momoto in 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Satoru Asako defeats Mike Anthony in 6 minutes, 58 seconds. There's a 6-man tag team match, the Holy Demon Army and Kentaro Shiga. This version of the HDA consisting of Tsuyoshi Kikuchi and Yoshinari Ogawa. And they defeat the team of Jun Akiyama, Takao Omori, and Taman Honda, who we talked about in last month's episode. Tag team match, Johnny Ace and the Patriot defeat Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Doug Furnas. So Doug had to do something while Dan Kroffat was doing something, so he teamed with Bobby Duncombe Jr. 6-man tag team match, Abdullah the Butcher, Giant Baba, and Rusher Kimura defeat Haruka Aigen, Masanobu Fuchi, and Ryukaku Uzumida. This would be the comedy match on the show, and this is usually, they always have at least one comedy 6-man with the older veterans doing like kind of humor. I never thought they were that funny myself, but yeah, it is what it is. Of course, we have the match we're going to talk about: Kroffat versus Van Dam. Following that would be a singles match between Stan Hansen against Giant Kim Mala, not Kamala, but Kim Mala, and Stan Hansen goes over him in 5 minutes and 9 seconds. And the main event is probably the most famous tag team match in the history of wrestling. For those of you who are part of the internet wrestling community, not for just WWF fans, but it's the Holy Demon Army, Akira Taue and Toshiaki Kawada, taking on and defeating the Super Generation Army of Kendo Kobashi and Mitsuharu Misawa for the World Tag Team titles. And this is a show I did a review of on episode 24 with John Pollock. So go watch the match and then go listen to that review. It's a very fun show itself. So before we get into this, there's a couple of different versions of this match on the internet, John. I'm gonna link the YouTube version, but I saw one on Daily Motion that had they had full entrances. So you see Rob Van Dam. I don't know what music he came out to, but I saw Dan Kroffat come out to "Welcome to the Jungle," which might have been one of the most popular entrance songs for wrestlers in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah, the version I saw didn't have the entrances, but when he won, I heard the old Guns N' Roses playing. So I'm like, oh, look at that, it's pretty cool. But you didn't know what RVD came out to him? It wasn't Pantera Walk, right?
No,
not yet.
no. I don't. I think it was probably just some generic song that he picked, or that maybe was picked for him by All Japan. So let's get into the match here. So we start, and Kroffat has Doug Furnas in his corner. RVD is introduced and gets a nice reaction from the crowd. Just keep in mind, he has been wrestling here for a couple of years by this point. The play-by-play guy, like I said, is great, as he likes to give little details like that. This is, Kroffat's fourth defense of the title, and that RVD is the guy with the ponytail and the singlet. He's like, if you don't know, he's the guy with the ponytail. He keeps talking about his ponytail. It's really interesting. He also makes a point that Kroffat's finisher is usually the Tiger Driver. So the match starts. They start off with a feeling out exchange, like testing each other out, and then seeing what's going to work against each other. Kroffat gets RVD to the ropes and gets the advantage with a spinning kick to the gut and a series of chops and kicks. And one thing I have to note about this kick, the spinning kick, is that it's not very graceful. Like, I like Kroffat. I think he's a great wrestler, but one thing I think would stand out with his strikes, especially, he's not the most the most graceful striker in wrestling. Like, he doesn't have like kind of the finesse of say Van Dam or like Toshiaki Kawada or like later on like people like Katsuyori Shibata. He kind of reminds me of like a proto version of Lance Storm in that regard.
Yeah, I can see that. And in this match alone, like against somebody like RVD, who was like his strikes are obviously so much better, it definitely stood out to me as well.
Kroffat calls Rob a boy and asks him if he wants to be a man, which the commentator makes note of. Van Dam counters an Irish whip with the splits into an inverted arm drag and then hits a middle rope body press, which pops the crowd. I thought this looked great.
No, absolutely. This whole match, I feel like did we get to the spot where Danny spit in RVD's face?
Not yet. That's a little while.
Yeah, because like that, once we got to that, that's like when the match just hit like an overdrive to me. But yeah, I think the crowd was totally into this match. And like, I mean, obviously they were well aware with both of them, but like they were totally giving both of them a good reaction, I feel like.
RVD takes control with a side headlock until Kroffat hits a hook kick to RVD's jaw. Kroffat is able to land on his feet off of RVD's monkey flip and is quite proud of himself, rightly so. And as he turns around, Rob is sitting on the top turnbuckle and gives him the finger, to which the commentator points out that he just did the quote-unquote fuck off to Kroffat. I'm fucking dying at this point. Like, he says fuck you or fuck off.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that, because the version that I saw was on YouTube, and when he's on the top rope and he flips him off, there's a noticeable cut. And like next thing you know, like he went from the top rope to they're in the middle of the ring facing off again. So I'm guessing that's what it was. Like, the version I saw, they must have edited that out, because I didn't hear him curse at all.
Oh no, he doesn't curse. It's the commentator.
Oh,
who curses.
okay.
The commentator says, "Oh, he just said fuck you to Kroffat."
Gotcha. Okay.
It's hilarious. Rob lands a series of kicks, goes for a jumping spinning one, but Kroffat ducks, and they are at a standoff. Much of the appreciation of the audience. Kroffat shakes his hand in respect, and we see the early seeds of Ring of Honor here.
With how so? Just the
with the handshake. Come on,
Yeah.
this is the match that inspired Gabe Sapolsky to
this
create the Code of Honor.
This is what inspired it. So this is the match that started.
You don't know this? You don't know that this is the match Gabe Sapolsky watched, like, along with Rob Feinstein back in the day when they were still talking. You know, before Rob Feinstein was exposed as well, you know, everyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, man, look at the respect he showed Rob there. We got to have that in our future wrestling promotion when ECW eventually dies, because Paul's not paying anybody, you know. So that's, I don't know. I'm making that shit up, but it
sounds plausible. Why not?
It's plausible. It's plausible with Gabe Sapolsky. It's probably plausible. As Rob locks in another side headlock, the announcer explains the origin of his Van Damme name as an homage to one Jean-Claude Van Damme. Kroffat gets out of the headlock with a knee to the gut, and he and RVD have another back and forth exchange, with RVD getting a sunset flip for a 2 count. And I gotta make a point, John. I really like the pacing of this match and how it just builds upon itself. Like, they start off feeling each other out. One guy gets the advantage. The guy counters it. He gets the advantage, and like they trade off like control segments. But it's really a nice building of like RVD up. Like, Kroffat's pretty much in control for most of this match. And like, it's interesting that Rob's like big control segment is actually just a side headlock that he puts on Kroffat, and he holds on to it for a couple of minutes. And it's maybe it's the longest side headlock spot you'll ever see in a Rob Van Dam match.
Yeah, it didn't feel too long, honestly. Like, the whole match just moved really fast for me. But yeah, this is like a great clash of styles, I feel like. And like, is this how Danny usually his singles matches are, or did Rob Van Dam kind of bring something out of him? Because, like, I don't know if this is like his usual style.
Well, this is the only American wrestler he faces.
Oh, okay.
For this title, that I can think. I'm sure he's had singles matches probably with like the Malenkos, Dean and Joe, back in the day. I have to check. And he would have like singles matches against like guys who were heavyweights, even though he's kind of like borderline. Like, Can-Ams weren't necessarily considered a junior heavyweight team, because Doug Furnas is not by any stretch of the imagination a junior heavyweight.
Yeah.
Kroffat is considered one, so that's why he's given that belt, because he proved like he's a great wrestler, and like Baba liked him a lot. But he had that style. Yeah, like, depends on who he's working. I think probably Van Dam just brought out a bit more of a dynamic feel to this match, because like he's not really used to seeing someone with like that kind of high flying style, in All Japan. Like, a lot of the guys who are juniors are primarily like, ground wrestlers, or like hard hitters. Not too many high flyers, actually, even in the junior division. That's to come in Pro Wrestling Noah with like Marufuji and Kenta, So, but yeah, I think Rob really brings out that kind of like, more exciting aspect to this Kroffat match here.
That's the one thing I give to RVD. I feel like a lot of times when he fights people, he always brings out like a different side of them. So Danny probably didn't have that many chances to wrestle guys and kind of stretch them out with their ponytail, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Well, first, we're gonna talk about RVD gets Kroffat in position for the Romero special, and sets it up with some nice kidney shots to from the back. First, Kroffat is too close to the ropes and is able to escape to the outside. This is the part you were talking about. Danny spits in Rob's face, much to the displeasure of everyone in Budokan Hall. Rob responds with a jumping kick off the apron to the back of Kroffat's head.
This was vicious. Like, he was like, he looked like a man that just got spit in the face, and he wanted he wanted to give him his receipt right away, because that jumping kick came out of nowhere the way it was framed too.
And he kicks him right in the back of the head too, and he sends him crashing into a ringside photographer. Poor fella, who's a true pro, because as soon as he recovers and he starts taking photos again, because he knows, like, I got to get pictures of this match or my editor's gonna flip out on me. There's a suplex on the boom mats, and then a black flip to Kroffat. Crowd is really into this. Rob goes back to the side headlock, but Kroffat responds with a backdrop driver, dropping RVD on the top of his neck. Not too good. It was very This is what happens when you wrestle in All Japan, so you get dropped on your head a lot. Danny suplexes Rob over the top rope to the outside of the ring. There's a gourd buster to the floor. Sucks to be RVD right now, John.
Yeah, he was. That outside spot, like just all those moves, he was definitely taking it, and he's probably not used to this type of style. I feel like him as well, like fighting in Japan. I don't know, did he have that many opportunities to have these type of like outside the match brawls, outside the ring brawls?
No, it depends. Like if he's wrestling Stan Hansen, maybe. Because Stan Hansen likes to just throw people out, especially young boys. He likes to throw them outside the ring and batter around to break him into the business, as it were.
It's all right. Danny Kroffat was just giving him a little appetizer what he was going to have over there in
ECW
300 Arena in Philadelphia.
That's right. Kroffat gets RVD in position for his own Romero special, but he decides that instead of using the arms to pull Rob back, he'll use his ponytail instead, thus letting us know that the announcer's constant references to the ponytail have paid off. Like you wouldn't believe how many times this announcer, this play-by-play guy, just talks about the fucking ponytail. Oh, the ponytail, the ponytail, the ponytail, the ponytail. And it was like, maybe Kroffat, clued him in on the fact, hey, I'm gonna do the Romero special and I'm gonna pull on his ponytail. So talk it up. So the TV audience is like, that's why you're talking about it so much.
Yeah, there must not have been that many other wrestlers with ponytails. I mean, Doug Furnas had a ponytail, right? I mean, he has hair tied back. I don't know if he
I don't think not during the match. Not during the match. He took it off during the match. Kroffat jumps off the second rope with the most ungraceful senton in the history of wrestling. He just looks like he's doing a back flop off a diving board into a pool here.
Yeah.
Danny locks in the Cobra Clutch, and Rob barely escapes by grabbing the ropes. Rob is able to backdrop Danny to the floor, and he follows up with a flip plancha onto a waiting Kroffat. So this is basically the point where really Van Dam just unleashes, RVD with all the kind of daredevil, stuff to the outside and high flying stuff.
Sorry about that. My cat's a little distracted here with the Japanese wrestling talk. Sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, what did you think at this point in the match, John? It's like, okay, this is the RVD I think people are really going to recognize. Not side headlock Rob Van Dam.
No, like I said, once he got spit in the face, I feel like he turned into the second gear and he just was giving everything to Danny here. He was like, this is the RVD that I wanted, because I'm watching a match and I'm like, yeah, this is not the RVD that I'm used to, but once he snapped to second gear, this is exactly what I was expecting from him. And because I was the match is good, but I'm like, why is it rated so high? But once I saw this all happen, it's like, okay, now I understand why this match is so held in up regard.
Kroffat rolls back in and RVD follows him by going to the top rope and hitting a beautiful missile karate kick. RVD hits a float over vertical suplex, and then he floats over into a pinning position for a 2 count. I thought this looked great. I wish he did this more in his WWE career.
Yeah, for sure.
Kroffat reverses an Irish whip with a knee to the gut and DDT, driving RVD's head into the mat. Looked great. Any comments, John, with this DDT?
The DDT, that was beautiful. I had to actually rewind it a couple times. Is he known to do DDTs like that?
Kroffat? Yeah, I think he did a lot of stuff. I can't remember every move he's done in the match, but it looked good. Danny goes for his Tiger Driver, but Rob drives him into a corner. But Danny unleashes a series of knees to his face. These look great. It looked like he's just peppering Rob's jaw with his knees. He then jumps off the middle turnbuckle, but Rob catches him midair with a belly-to-belly suplex. RVD hits a slingshot leg drop for a 2 count. Great stuff.
Yeah, he was finally able to hit that. The first time when he went for it, and the way that Danny just stopped him with the kick, that was innovative. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. Blocking the split-legged moonsault with the kick to the back of RVD, that was beautiful. But he was able to hit it the second time.
Oh yeah, so he goes for the split-legged moonsault. This is the first time.
Yep.
But Kroffat kicks him in the shin mid-jump.
That was great.
Yeah, it's great. It's just so simple. Simplicity is beautiful. There's an elegance in simplicity, especially in wrestling. Rob retaliates with a kick to the gut and then a spinning kick to the back of Kroffat's head. Poor man. And then spin jumps and lands ass first onto the poor man's kidneys for a 2 count. It's okay, fuck you. I'm just gonna like potato you. Like, and I'm probably sure it's like, Kroffat doesn't mind because he's just gonna give it back to him later on.
Like I always hear like, you know, all Japan wrestling is like looks so realistic, but like when I'm watching this, I'm like, these guys are like beating the crap out of each other, honestly. Like that's what it legit felt like. And I'm like, it makes you think for a second, like, is this like legit? Obviously we know it's not, but like just their intensity and the way that they were like attacking each other, it makes everything look legit. And this is honestly the type of wrestling that I like. And I'm upset I didn't like watch this growing up because I feel like I would have had more appreciation, especially the old Japan. But like seeing it now makes me like understand why people like you talk about this era in such high regard, because this is like legit like fighting. I wouldn't even call it wrestling to me at this point.
Kroffat tries to fire back with some elbows, but Rob jumping back kicks him in the nose, and this is where he likely where Kroffat likely gets his nosebleed from that we see later on. Yeah, no, well, someone getting a nosebleed from Rob Van Dam in a match. Wow, unheard of. Not like, he's very known for like causing people to start bleeding from their mouth or their nose. But hey, it's wrestling. What can you do?
It's fine as long as nobody's getting hurt. I mean, obviously you're getting a broken nose, but other than that, you're fine.
It's broke. You know, bleeding nose doesn't necessarily mean broken nose. So, Rob finally hits the split-legged moonsault for a close 2. Crowd pop for it. I remember the first time I saw the split-legged moonsault. I think it was like that time he became Mr. Monday Night with Jerry Lawler, and he's fighting Jeff Hardy, I think. And I was like, whoa. That's an awesome move.
I was going to ask you, like, I mean, besides Rob Van Dam, who was like the closest person in this era, especially in old Japan, that would even come close to RVD? Because you would think a lot of the moves that he was doing, they must not have seen unless there was somebody that was doing these type of maneuvers.
No. I mean, like, the thing with Van Dam is like he really perfected like the splits, using the splits, right? Like Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? I mean, I think that's probably where like, oh, you kind of look like Van Dam. You should change your name to Rob Van Dam. I mean, okay, you know, like, I'm pretty limber. Like, I do martial arts, legit. I'm pretty, you know, flexible. Like, I'll start using the splits, like Van Damme does. Who knows? Maybe he's a huge JCVD fan growing up, and he just like, fuck, I gotta use splits when I become a wrestler. But no, like, I do think even now, I think he's probably still a very unique, you know, wrestler with his style, especially using like things like the split-legged moonsault and
yeah. There really hasn't been anybody that's even like come close to like his type of style. I feel like it's very unique.
Rob hits a JCVD punch to the guy, to the gut. Sorry, kind of like, you know, like the Van Damme's dick punch in, what is it, Bloodsport?
Bloodsport, yeah, and that would later be copied in Mortal Kombat with Johnny Cage. You know, that's like what it's like now. It's like a staple. Everybody thinks it's the Johnny Cage dick punch, but it's really not. It's the Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport.
There's an overhead chop, and he tries to whip Kroffat, who collapses to the mat. This is a great spot. RVD quickly goes for a cover. You know, whereas someone today in that kind of spot, if that happened, they would just decide, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a standing 630 splash first, and then try to pin him. No, RVD, he collapses. Oh, he's out. I'm going to go cover him. Beautiful.
That was wonderful. Like, I've never seen that before. I've seen people like collapse with whips, but like for someone to actually like use his brain and actually go for the cover, I'm like, oh, that's genius. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That was really cool.
If it was like Jeff Hardy, he'd go out, get a ladder first, and then try to do a swanton, thus giving his opponent enough time to recover, and he'd miss. But not Van Damme. That's proving that Rob Van Dam is a smarter wrestler than Jeff Hardy.
No, for real. Like, you would think if you're in a fight or if you're in a wrestling match and your opponent collapses and falls, your first thought is, okay, this guy, something's wrong with him. Let me go for the cover. He obviously can't get up, right? So that was very smart.
RVD fucks up a powerbomb attempt, but follows up with a failed Firebird splash. Lands on his face. Can you imagine doing that many rotations and you just like crash face first into the mat instead of like, you know, making body-to-body contact with your opponent? Like, he's gonna cushion you to some degree, right? So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, was that like that? Like, was he meant to do that? Like, obviously not. Like, it looked off, which is good. I feel like in matches like this,
I think he doesn't do like something like the Firebird splash.
Okay.
Like, he was like, hey man, this guy Hayabusa, he does this match. I think he did a lot of stuff that he did, like, you know, like before ECW, that he just said, I don't need to do that stuff. I do enough. I'm going to do and he just starts incorporating ECW style more, right? So I think that's why he doesn't do as many of these like kind of like, you know, Hayabusa, Too Cold Scorpio type of era maneuvers, like when we get to see him in ECW and WBE. Kroffat goes for another Tiger Driver, but Rob counters with a backslide pin attempt that gets it close too. RVD hits some strikes, and then hits the ropes. But Kroffat has been working All Japan long enough to be waiting with a lariat that nearly decapitates RVD. Beautiful. Like, this is where years of getting hit by this is what years of getting hit by Stan Hansen and Kenta Kobashi does to you. You just like,
yeah, he flipped RVD inside out with this one. This is another spot that I had to go back and watch again. This is beautiful.
Kroffat hits a beautiful top rope swanton for a 2, and then follows up with a tiger driver. But again, only gets a 2 count here. RVD gets Kroffat gets RVD to the rope, and then does what would you say? I call it an inverted back suplex, flipping RVD over and driving his face into the mat for the 1, 2, 3.
I was gonna ask you, I'm like, is this like one of his moves? Like, obviously he does a tiger driver, but like when he did this, I'm like, what exactly was he trying to do, or what did he do? Is this something that he has done before? Because it looked beautiful, whatever it was. But I can't.
No, I think he's like, okay, tiger driver, not gonna finish him off. I gotta do something else. So this is typical of All Japan style, King's Road style, where you're gonna get, okay, I'm gonna do something a little bit more dangerous, usually from the top rope, an avalanche style maneuver, or missile something maneuver from the top rope, or whatever, and he decided, I'm gonna give him a kind of, it starts off as kind of a side suplex from the top rope, but instead of like RVD landing on his back, Kroffat decides to flip him over midair and he lands on his face, and then this is enough to take him out for the 1, 2, 3 in 17 minutes and 10 seconds. And John, what did you think overall about this match?
It started off slow, like I said, but once we saw the spot where Kroffat spit in RVD's face, it just went into second drive there. All those kicks every time RVD did a side kick, I'm just like, this is beautiful. But like some of these moves, like the swanton, I didn't expect that. I'm wondering if Jeff Hardy was watching this maybe when he was backstage getting ready for to carry out King Mabel at the King of the Ring, whatever he was doing in '95. If he saw that, maybe he was like, I need to use that if I ever start, main eventing on this show. But yeah, this match was great. Honestly, I honestly didn't know who was gonna win. Like, I didn't know until the match started that he was a champion. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I would have known if RVD held this title in All Japan. So I kind of like thought, okay, maybe it's a non-title match. I really didn't know who was gonna win. So, and then when he pulled out that top rope move, I'm like, I didn't know he was gonna go for the pin with that. So it definitely was a victory out of nowhere.
What would you give this as a star rating?
Let's see. I don't usually do stars. So out of 5 stars, I probably would go with a good 4.25, I would think.
All right. I'm a little bit higher. I gave it 4 3/4, 4.75 stars for me. I really like this match a lot. I think it's a great showcase for Kroffat and for like a young Van Dam. I think it's a nice clash of styles. It's nice to see Rob Van Dam working a more grounded style, but like at the beginning of the match, and then really turning it up, as you say, getting into second gear. And then I think really by the end, by like the last 5-7 minutes, he's really into third gear and just trying to hit as much stuff as he can that we'll later see become like staples in his run as a main event guy in ECW and in the WWE. I totally recommend it. I think this is one of RVD's best career matches, up there with any of his Jerry Lynn matches, any of his matches with Lance Storm, up there with like who were, I don't know, like his stuff with Eddie Guerrero back in the few times they wrestled in the WWF, WWE. Just great. If you're a fan of Rob Van Dam, you want to go back, watch some of his stuff, I do recommend checking out. You can skip basically his WCW career, but check out some of the stuff he does in All Japan, especially like when he's like teaming with Stan Hansen, which is hilarious. Because like, can you imagine Stan Hansen, the straight-laced guy from Texas, from coming up in the 60s, 70s, and like you got Rob Van Dam sitting next to him? That'd be hilarious on the bus,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, when I looked up some of RVD's matches and in Japan, like I saw he was part of a tag team called Aerial Assault, but his tag team partner, I never heard of him before or since. I'm trying to get his name right now, actually, but like he was part of a tag team in All Japan for a while. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't.
Bobby Bradley, that was his name. It was Rob Van Dam and Bobby Bradley. They were a tag team for a while there, but whoever Bradley was, he obviously didn't have the same success as his tag team partner.
No, probably just like maybe he's just a flippy dude, like Van Dam was, but he didn't have any charisma. Like, I've never heard of Bradley. I don't think anyone's ever going to pick an Aerial Assault, match from All Japan for me to review. I doubt it. I've never heard of this tag team, to be honest with you. Like, Rob Van Dam's career in All Japan is kind of a bit of a blind spot for me, because like he's not one of the pillars. He's not a heavyweight guy, But you know, with that being said, I'm glad you picked this match. I think if you were there in Budokan on June 9th, 1995, and you got this, and then you had like, you know, the piss break match with Stan Hansen versus Giant Kimala too. Then you get the, you know, the barn burner of Kobashi and Misawa versus Kawada and Niktawe. You'd probably be pretty happy with that, with a night of wrestling like that.
No, absolutely. This makes me want to check out both of their matches. Like, if let's just say I only knew Philifon from WWF, like he was there like what, not even a couple months, I feel like, and like just knowing like what he's capable here, like it makes me want to see more of his matches, more of RVD's matches for sure. But yeah, 95, like great year in wrestling, great year in hip hop, as you would know, because I feel like right after this, I throw on Jizza's Liquid Swords. Like I feel like that was around the same time as well.
Listen, if anyone knows anything about Jizza's Liquid Swords, it's me, because I remember being at the campus community radio station, CHRY, York University. And my friends who really loved hip hop just came and said, you got to listen to this record. And I'm like, why? It's like, just listen to it. And then, you know, it's there. They take samples from the English dub version of Lone Wolf and Cub called Shogun Assassin. I'm like, hey, this sounds familiar. What the fuck? And then, you know, it launches into the music. I'm like, oh, who's this? This is Jizza from fucking Wu-Tang and shit. And I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I know about that. I know about that record. Don't you worry about that, John.
That's why I brought it up. I knew you would know exactly what I was talking about, so I figured it's safe to throw it out there. But yeah, I'm happy to be on this show. I'm happy to talk about this match. Like I you know, honestly, it makes me want to watch more of this, because like this is the type of style. And it's funny because after this, I had seen the match originally that you reviewed with Pollock. I'm like, you know what, let me throw it on before we record, and I forgot the match was like 45 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna have time to watch this match, but I definitely want to go back and watch more of this era of Old Japan.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely, if you like Kroffat in this match, definitely if you recognize him from, you know, him and Furnace's, you know, cup of coffee in the WBF, that's not really great, because like I think Vince just decided, oh, you guys are boring, so I'm gonna push you as the boring guys, like he would do with Lance Storm later on. But they're not boring. You just have to watch any of this stuff as the Can-Am Express in Japan, especially. I don't think they really have that kind of a standing run in ECW either, because they're not really suited for that promotion. But, you know, definitely watch the match with Kobashi and Kikuchi. Watch their matches with the British Bulldogs. I think they have some matches with the Malenkos. Any combination of maybe Misawa, Kobashi. There's a lot of stuff. I actually have like a 7-disc DVD set that I bought a long time ago of all their matches in All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Really?
So it's somewhere. I think I might have ripped it to my hard drive. I'd have to go look. Again, I haven't watched it in a long time. But, you know, they're one of those teams, like, along with, like, you know, Dr. Dusty Williams and Terry Gordy is like one of my favorite, like, you know, foreign teams to work in Japan. Up there, like, those guys with the Steiner brothers, definitely very underrated. I don't think enough people know about their work in All Japan. I don't think enough people really, you know, give them their flowers as like a very influential tag team as well. But people who know, they know, and I think people will appreciate like the contrast you have with Kroffat, who's more of a technician, and it does like kind of like the striking with the kicks and the chops and stuff like that, with Doug Furnace, who's more of the power wrestler, but who is also quite agile and did a lot of high flying himself as well. Like has a really beautiful Frankensteiner. He's actually, you know, very reminiscent of a Scott Steiner back in the day. So
yeah, their brief time in WWF, when I saw Furnace, I'm like, this guy looks more like a WWF guy, but LaFon maybe not. Like I never even heard either one of them talk. I feel like I don't think they ever got any promo time in WWF, so it makes me definitely want to check out more of their work. If I ever get the chance to bump into a Rob Van Dam, I'm definitely gonna ask him about this match. I'm not sure how he speaks of his time in Japan, but I'm sure he must have like held this match like close to heart. It must be in his own personal favorite matches, you would think.
Yeah, you should ask him. I don't know. I don't think he was a huge fan of going to Japan, you know, because like I remember like seeing like a shoot interview or transcripts or something where he's like, just like, you know, he didn't really, you know, because he's kind of a free spirit. He thought like Japan was too conformist for him. And of course he cannot smoke weed in Japan. So.
I was just going to say that. I'm pretty sure that probably didn't make him too happy either.
So if he did, and he got caught, wouldn't have been a very good time for Mr. Van Dam. So like I don't think these are the kind of things that he would enjoy. I'm sure he appreciates his time in Japan, but you'd have to ask him, did you like your time in Japan? But maybe just stick stick to like asking about this particular match. Wait, what did you think about your match with Dan Kroffat back in Budokan Hall? Like one of the biggest crowds he had wrestled in front of at the time. So there you go. All right. Well, John, thank you for being on the show. Anything to plug?
I mean, you already did it. You're wearing the shirt. You're rocking the shot in the dark. But yeah, every Thursday on the Poisonrana feed, hear me talk about all these shows that you probably will never watch. You personally, WH, like a NWA or a New Japan Strong just came to an end. Like this era, New Japan Strong.
So what are you going to replace New Japan Strong with?
There's plenty out there. MLW has a second show coming out, so I'll be talking about that. Women of Wrestling, which I thought was going to be like a limited 13-episode series, is up to episode 20. So that's keeping.
When are you going to start covering Reality of Wrestling?
You know what's funny? I've tried to watch Reality Wrestling here or there, but it's really hard to catch. I feel like, at least my.
Well, I've been watching clip matches from Reality Wrestling because I'm really getting into this independent wrestler that came out of there, Brian Keith.
Okay.
So he has a lot of matches over there. So
is Brian Keith the one that wears like the cowboy hat, right?
Yes, he does the bounty hunter gimmick.
I'm actually going to be seeing him wrestle this Friday at a House of Glory.
Well, you take a picture with him with the 5 Pillars shirt, see what he says. I think he's a fan of the show, maybe.
That is a possibility. I just got an email before recording with the tracking number, and it says it should be here within a day or two. So if it gets here before Friday, don't worry. I'll take just for you. I'll take a picture with Mr. Keith there with the new 5 pillars.
You tell him I'm enjoying watching his matches on the YouTube gimmick here.
I'll definitely do that. But yeah, besides that, I'll occasionally jump in on, I'm like the third man here in the BDE. So you'll catch me on Up Next. I do a show monthly with B Detroit called What Up Though that you would actually like. We talk a lot about hip hop, not mostly 90s hip hop. We talk about pop culture, movies, video games. Have you checked out the Last of Us show yet? I feel like you would like that.
I have the first episode.
Okay.
I haven't watched it yet. I might get like 5 episodes and then just binge it.
Yeah.
In preparation for Mandalorian season 3.
Well, that's exactly why I brought it up. I feel like you would love Pedro Pascal's work here, and even if you don't play the video game or know nothing about it, I feel like it's a really good drama. It's a really good show that would definitely. I feel like somebody like you it would hook your attention.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it mainly for Pedro Pascal. I'm a big fan of, but also like it's getting a lot of rave reviews. So I look forward to watching that. So so you find John a lot of his stuff at with the Poisonrana feed, but also here at Post Wrestling. He likes to get the invite from like John Way to do stuff with on the what would you say, like Poisonrana is I don't know if Post Wrestling is AEW, then Poisonrana is what? Because I kind of it's adjacent. It's not lesser or anything.
Okay, we'll swing it back to Wu-Tang. So if Post Wrestling is the Wu-Tang Clan, then Poisonrana is like the Killer Army, the Sons of Man, the offshoot, the Killer Bees, basically. So yeah,
that's a good one.
There we go. We'll go with that.
You should throw up that picture of like the Wu-Tang Clan as members of the who would in the Post Wrestling universe would be members of the Wu-Tang Clan.
I have to dig it up. I know there's like an official listing out there, but I'm sure it could shuffle around depending on certain people's moods or whatever. But I think last we checked, I think you were Capadonna, because Capadonna's the one that likes to wear a lot of different. He's like the mentor. He's the one that taught how to rap. Just like I feel like you taught all of us about wrestling, and he's also the wardrobe kid. He likes to wear a lot of clothes and talk about clothes a lot. So, and obviously you wearing that's the highest praise.
Where can people find this T-shirt?
This is on Pro Wrestling Tees. It's still available there. Just type in "Shot in the Dark" or "Up Next." It is on the Up Next page still. And please support if you like to support somebody like me. It's
very comfortable. These T-shirts are very comfortable. I like wearing this shirt sometimes, John, when I do podcasts. Maybe with a button shirt over it, but it's a very comfortable shirt. I recommend anything from Pro Wrestling Tees. Their sweaters, really nice. Their hooded sweaters from like the Up Next one.
Yeah,
one of my favorite things to wear, especially in this cold weather that we have here in Toronto.
Especially if Scrump wears it first, right? Once he tests it out.
I'm like, I smell Scrumps, on the clothing. I'm like, oh my god, it reminds me of
Chicago.
It reminds me of that pizza place he took us to. Not Giordano's, the other one, the other deep dish place. Pequod's.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells like Pequod's. Oddly enough, it doesn't smell like muffins from Mindy's.
No, okay.
Which is a good thing, people who know. If you know, you know. But yeah, John, you can find John Shot in the Dark. What up, Doe? I give that a listen. I haven't checked out yet, but
Yeah, definitely check
I
it out.
plan
But
on doing it.
if you want to hear me talk about things that aren't wrestling related, that's you're probably your only chance would be on a show like that. So
And listen, if you need a guide around Times Square, like you can find fewer people who are good about that than John Siino.
there we go. He's offer my Times Square tour services.
That's right. That's right. Taking me from Forbidden Planet down to the pasta place, and
There we
then walking around Times Square.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know why they keep saying like I think who was saying like I think Benno were saying like I was leading people around. It's like no, it wasn't me. You know who was leading us around was Davey.
Yeah,
Davey was the one being the tour guide. He really knows New York really well.
Whenever Davey comes here to New York, he shows me something that I don't even know about. I'm like, I live here. How do you know about this place? Like, it's crazy, but you know,
well, it's like people visit Toronto. It's like, Davey, have you been to this? Have you been here? It's like, no, I live here. I don't want to go there.
Exactly.
You've been to Fort York, WH? Maybe as a kid when I was in school. I haven't been to Fort York as an adult. No, like I can't remember the last time I went to the CN Tower. Maybe like 2006, 2007, because I took someone there because they were visiting the city. I would never go to the CN Tower regardless. Otherwise, it's a great place to visit, actually. But like, I wouldn't have any desire. It's like, John, how many times have you been to the Empire State Building?
I was gonna say I've never been to the Empire State Building. I've been to the Statue of Liberty once, like for a school trip when I was like in 5th grade or something. But other than that, yeah, I'm not gonna. I live here. Like, what am I gonna do?
Well, one of these days, I'm gonna come back and apparently I have to eat a Cuban sandwich with you or something like that.
Yes,
at some
Cuban
point.
Sandwich.
So there you go. There's something to look forward to, and we'll go to some other comic book stores that aren't Midtown Comics and aren't Forbidden Planet because I've been there. They don't really have things that I want. I'm kind of like want more of those hole in the wall comic book stores. So it's if you live in the the New York area, a good hole in the wall comic book store that has some hidden gems like this match that we just talked about. Let me know. Put it in the comments below. Send me a message on the Twitter gimmick. I'm at WH_Park9. John, where are you on Twitter?
I'm at Siino on all social media. That's CNOEVIL. Send me a DM. Have any questions, any suggestions you have, shoot them right ahead. I'm a nice guy to talk to, right, WH?
Yes. Most definitely, yes. Anyways, John will be on something I do in the future, probably with MCU later. We're gonna be kicking that off in February with Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, along with I think Secret Invasion is going to be coming out soon after.
Yes, maybe. March. I want to say March or April around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're gonna need a lot of guests for Daredevil, which is looking to be what, early 2024, late 2023.
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna be a lot of episodes too. That's
18 episodes, everyone. We're gonna need some New Yorkers to be on this show. So
there we go.
We're gonna be calling John. What part of Hell's Kitchen is that? Is that the good part or what?
Hell's Kitchen is one of the parts of New York I haven't been to, and I don't know if I want to. I don't live in Hell's Kitchen though.
No, but isn't Hell's Kitchen just been gentrified to the point where it's like not even Hell's Kitchen? Yeah. It's like Hell's like it's not even Hell's Kitchen anymore. It's like I don't know.
I'm sure a lot of New York. I'm sure Red Hook is probably very nice this time of the year as well. So
there you go. We have to go visit. Go see if we can find Taz over in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. But anyways, thank you, John, for coming on the show. I hope everyone enjoyed this match and our talk about it. Join us again next month as we'll talk about another match someone's going to pick. I haven't decided who the guest is. I have some ideas. Good. Call some people, contact some people. But hey, until the next episode, I want to thank everyone for supporting. You know what I do have to do? I do have to run through the people who have bought the new shirt, John. So I'm going to start from basically December here. Eric Jones, Michael Aquino, Neil McNerlin, Ryan Kurz, Matthew Wyatt, Kafal Cully, Paul David Santos, Jake from the Windy City, Christopher Kent Kwan, and one John Siino was the last person to order a shirt. Well, thank you very much, John.
I feel like I had to. If I came on this show and you read those names and I wasn't one of them, I feel like I would have got a scolding from Mr. WH Park. So I made sure.
Well, if I had to read Brandon from New Jersey's name and not yours, I would have been like severely disappointed. But
no, the same day, and rest in peace to Jay Briscoe. But the same day I ordered my Jay Briscoe show with all the the proceeds going to his family, I'm like, let me support WH Park as well.
Well, thank you. And hey, yeah, go support the Briscoe Pugh family over at Pro Wrestling Tees. Get the Jay Briscoe shirt. Rest in peace. One of my favorite wrestlers from the early 2000s. One of the reasons I stuck around with ROH for as long as I did was primarily for, like the Briscoes, but also like, American Dragon and Samoa Joe. But like Briscoe's huge part of my fandom of Ring of Honor back in the early 2000s. So yeah. But yeah, for all the listeners, store.postwrestling.com, get the t-shirt, a lot of other cool stuff over there as well. And until next time, I will say goodbye.